All right, we're at 7:01. We'll get started. Thank you for joining us. We had a really exciting week this week. We had our teachers back for in-service. Very want to send a shout out to all of the teachers all of the staff in general across the district. There are some great workshops, great collaboration and preparation for students next week. We're just a few days away from opening. Patrick Mulligan to start off with a little bit of what we accomplished this week, along with what you can expect for your students, starting freshmen on Tuesday, and then moving into the week, a little bit of our schedule. So Patrick, go ahead, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Sione. So just welcome everyone again. We're been really great to have these conversations with folks and share some information. It was great to have our teachers back and get excited about seeing our students once again and trying to, again, balance the somewhat new, slight change in some plans as we come back together, but still bringing all of our students back to start 5 days a week in person. And we're very excited about that. Our teachers worked really hard this week, both with in-service trainings and time setting up classrooms and preparing for students to arrive, and working especially on some of our curriculum mapping and really ensuring that we're providing and continue to provide the high quality education we know is expected at Silver Falls School District. And they've done immense work. And so we're very, very proud of the stuff that we'll be able to see coming through in the classroom. A few things for parents to know as we're moving forward. Next week, like Mr. Thompson shared, Tuesday is for our freshmen. They will have their normal arrival, so school will still start for them at 8:45, and they will still go until 3:45. But during the day, they will have an actual special schedule where we have some of our what we call link crew members who are upperclassmen and great student leaders in our building to be able to show them around, teach them what it means to be a Fox, how to navigate our classes, build some community with our incoming freshmen to welcome them into the Fox family at Silverton High School. So we're very excited for that. They will get updated schedules at that point. So for freshman families that picked up schedules during registration, as we always tell anyone that picks up a schedule, that is a draft. It is subject to change as we try to work on balancing classes. Sometimes students have holes that we need to fix, things that need to be changed. And so they will get a brand new schedule in those groups on Tuesday, and we're going to help lead them through where to find those classes, all of those pieces that they will see. So that will be a normal day for them in terms of their pickup and drop off with buses and getting to the school. They'll just have a different schedule day there in the building. For our sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they will be joining us on Wednesday, and we're very excited to see them as well. We are going to be for them for schedules. Normally folks may or upperclassmen may have memories of going into the gym to grab copies of schedules to try to minimize big congestion as much as possible. We're going to be sending that out digitally to all of the sophomores, juniors, and seniors through their WASL or through their gradebook app that they're familiar with. That will be sent out to them on Tuesday. So they should be looking for that. And we're going to send out parent square messages as well as reminders to all of our students to find that. But we're just doing that as a way to, again, try to help navigate them and not have as much big bunching as possible, minimizing that as much as possible. For students that need printed copies or that don't have access or are not sure how to do that, there will be directions, of course, on how to get into WASL. But for those that cannot, we will have printed copies still available in our counseling office. So those are kind of things that they can expect for Wednesday. We'll be following the advisory day schedule on Wednesday, where they'll be having some activities and things to sort of set the stage for everyone. And then on Friday, in lieu of doing our big, what we would normally have of an all school assembly in the gym, and out of abundance of caution, and again, to try to mitigate and social distance as much as possible, we will be actually walking to the football field and doing it outside with all of our classes spread out, but still be able to bring some of that Silverton cheer and that Fox pride to our students. So that's sort of the plan that we have for our kiddos for the first week, to again welcome them back in the school and welcome them back to another great year of Foxes. And I do want to give a big special shout out to many staff that have worked really hard, but especially to Katie Kentowitz and to Christy Hayes, who have been working hard with our link crew to organize our Tuesday Freshman Day. They've done a tremendous job of getting that together, and many others that have helped them, but definitely a big shout out to them for the work they've done.
Thanks, Pastor. Appreciate that. What we want to do is we also want to share some of the highlights of what's different and what's the same for some of our students that have been here coming back through walking the halls. What is it going to look like? What are some protocols? Bathroom, lunch, where do I enter? What parking lot looks like, and more code of behavior, and some of the other things that we really need to know about some of the protocols. And again, we'll have Ms. Drescher share with you these highlights with the understanding that each day we will be receiving more information, and if anything changes, we'll make sure that we push those changes out to you because there are things that are changing daily. So we'll ask Assistant Principal Drescher if she can share with us some highlights, what the day is going to look like, some similarities and differences. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Just a couple of things. Well, actually, it's maybe more than a couple of things, but I'll try not to take up too much of your time. So some of the questions that are coming across from especially the older kids and parents. So I'll just start with parking. People are wondering about, what about parking passes? Where do we park? Are we going to have those? First of all, we want people not to worry. We're going to take the first week and into the second week before we are requiring those parking passes. We'll give plenty of time, and we'll go in order so that the seniors go first, then juniors, then sophomores and down. And students will park in the south parking lot, and that's the lot off of Kerminga Way. The north parking lot is for staff, but students will have the larger south parking lot. We need you to enter and exit by Kerminga Way because that will keep kids from driving by where buses are and where kids disembark to come into the building. The entry ways for kids are the two doors in the main lobby, one off the Grant Street turnaround where you could drop off kids. That would be one. And that's the east entrance. The west entrance where you would bring them in, that's a parent drop off, and they would come in off of Kerminga Way and get dropped off there, and they could enter at the other main entrance. The third entrance is at the gym foyer. That's where all of the buses will come in. If you ride the bus, that's where you will enter. And walkers will come in that way too if they choose that, or the east Main Street lobby. When you come in, there will be hand sanitizer there. You'll be greeted, and we will just check to make sure everybody has masks in place. The masks have to be 2-ply, so like gaiters. So some kids last year chose to wear a gaiter, but they wore a mask underneath it because most gaiters are only 1-ply, and that's not an acceptable face covering. So if you forget a mask or you don't have one, we will supply you with the mask as you walk in, and then we'll have hand sanitizer. In the morning, there are free meal service at no cost to anyone in the mornings and at lunch. And what we have is for areas to eat at, because I know this is kind of a concern for parents and kids, is we will have the commons will be open and we will have spaced out seating. We will also have outdoor seating out in the courtyard. And if necessary, we'll have the auxiliary gym that we open up so that kids can go into there. What we have ordered for outside are large tents that cover the courtyard. And we've ordered some tables to be out there. So yes, they're not going to be here right at the beginning, but fortunately we have pretty good weather. So those will be areas that people can go and eat outside. A question that came across is, does my kid have to keep a mask on during lunch? If we can be safely distanced while we eat, which is 6 feet or beyond, then they don't need to have a mask on at lunch. We would hope that they would safely distance so that they could eat and visit with their friends, but just in with 6 feet of distance. Now, as far as food and drink in the classroom, that's going to be at teacher discretion. And just like it was pre-COVID. And if a teacher agrees to have that in their classroom, what the requirement will be is that they need to be in bite-sized pieces so that can be underneath the mask, eaten that way without taking the mask off. And the drinks can't be like just a bottle. It needs to have something with a straw so that they can put it under their mask to drink so that the mask does not have to come off. Those were some of the questions that we were getting. If there is, masks are, that's a non-negotiable, they're required for all students. Now there are shields that if there are specific guidelines in place, if it's for special ed or a medical note along those lines, you would work with your counselor on that. Most of those have already been set in place from the previous year. Other than that, the face covering, it's a mask, that's the acceptable face covering. What else? Is there something else I was forgetting? Can you guys remember?
Let's see.
Oh, the hallways.
The hallways, yeah. Walking
So
the
one of the
arrows.
things that we are expected to do is, in order to keep kids, I mean, they can walk, they have to be 3 feet of distance, but we will have directional hallways and there's arrows on the floor and kids will be expected to follow those arrows. And as far as going to the restroom or certain kind of, with other things, we have QR codes that will be posted in the classroom. So if they get permission from the teacher, they will they use their device to scan the QR code, and that allows them to go to the restroom. Teachers have been talked to about, and we're going to let them use their discretion for mask breaks, because we recognize as we go through the day, it could be tough for some kids more than others. Unfortunately, we're getting kind of used to it, aren't we, guys? So, but teachers are going to use that at their discretion, and we have put some things in place that they'll explain to the students. So if someone really needs a mask break, that can't happen in the classroom. So we will have to take some steps to make that happen. I think those were the highlights, correct?
Absolutely. Those are the great highlights. Could you just go over real quickly, because you did a great job as what masks look like when we need to eat, if allowed to eat in the classroom. What does it look like during lunchtime?
Well, if you'll put that on during lunchtime, if they are distanced, they can remove, if they are 6 feet of distance, and we do have those labeled in, we have labels where people can sit in the lunchroom. And it's very apparent that would make them be 6 feet apart. If they sit inside at those places, they can have their mask off while they eat. And if they sit in designated spots, microwaves will be available for students to use. All we are asking is when they're done that they wipe it down with an Oxiver wipe that will be on top of each microwave. And then we will sanitize after every meal service, morning and afternoon. So the mask itself, like I said, at lunch, if you're in those designated spots, or if you're outside and you have 6 feet of distance as well, you can be without a mask while you eat.
Yeah, thank you. And what we'll do is we'll also have the Oxiver wipes for all students in their classrooms to wipe down surfaces, their table surfaces. Mm-hmm. So they'll do that before and after they're at their desk in classrooms. And we'll also ask the same in the lunch area and where they eat at the tables as well. And we will also be cleaning the surfaces in between lunches. As we know, we have a first lunch and a second lunch with the student body. So that's another thing. Masks are required outside unless they can maintain 6 feet of distance within some parameters. And you want to share a little bit more about that, Jody? Anything else on that one?
Well, when when we went down there, there's a question about what if a child doesn't have a smart device? Their Chromebooks are able to scan those QR codes. So everybody will be assigned a Chromebook. We're one-to-one, and they can use that to scan the QR code. So I wanted to alleviate some of that. And outside, there may be times when staff members take kids out for a mask break, but they're going to make sure everybody is at least 6 feet apart, and then they get to take the masks off. One of the things I'm not sure if James will have time, but at like athletic events, even when they're outside on our property, because we cannot police that 6 feet, we're asking that everybody have masks on the entire time. And while they're at the game, before, during, and after the game until they exit.
Yeah, that's a great point. So the mask breaks during school 6 feet apart outside, but during events, whether inside or outside, when we have guests coming, it is a all mask event, outside or inside. So thank you, Jody, for that.
Here's a question, Mr. Thompson, that someone had asked around. What about for students, especially if we have students that are quarantining? So as we do part of our contact tracing, and so we work both with our school nurse and county officials as we identify based on spacing, distance, proximity, and time for students that might need to quarantine due to contact. All teachers, and this is actually 6 through 12, but for us in the high school, are building and working on developing our Canvas shells, so actually building their Canvas pages where they will have their work and their lessons and activities that students will be able to access, those that are at home quarantining until they're able to return back into the building. So then that would be once we know a student is quarantining, to be able to communicate with staff that students would be accessing Canvas so that they can ensure that those students have access to the materials and the lessons there on Canvas to continue their learning until they return to the building.
Thank you. And I think we had one more. Someone may have missed the QR code and what that's used for. Jody, would you mind repeating that just one more time?
So the QR codes that are posted in the classroom. So if a student says, so we can eliminate like teachers having to write notes and hand them to students. Number one, it doesn't distract. I apologize for my dog whining in the background. It doesn't distract from the class going on. And also, a student can ask a teacher, hey, can I use the restroom? And they can nod and they can take it and they scan it. And it accounts for, we use that for where kids go for contact tracing. So plus it saves us from having to write those notes. And they will be in every room.
Terrific. Thank you so much. We have some other questions. Lockers. Will lockers, the locker room. So lockers in our hallways for our general population, we are not utilizing those. So students will carry their belongings. We can work things out with our AG teachers for some things to be stored in some of those classes. And that's at the discretion and the agreement between the student and teacher. But what about locker rooms and athletics and PE? So for those student athletes, connect with your coaches. Those lockers are available, but the coaches will be in charge of disseminating which lockers will be used for which sports. And PE, those lockers are available through the day as well. So that's that question. Buses, there was a question on buses. As far as we know, we were notified that the drop off and pickup full bus service will be available on Tuesday. If there's any updates to that, we'll let you know between now and Tuesday. Students, another question, how do students know which lunch period they have? That's a great question. Ms. Drescher, do you have that wording on your highlights? I think I saw it on the wonderful.
Well, I don't know that I have it on my highlights. Well, it's based on your 4th grade class. So off the top of my head, Patrick probably knows this better than me. But I can tell you, if you have first lunch, you have first lunch if your class is on the first level. And Patrick, do you have the other ones in front of you?
I don't
I
have
got
in
it.
front of
I
me.
can read it for you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
and we also too, part of that is some of that will be subject to change a little bit from previous years, because one of the key things we really are trying to do is balance our lunchroom. Just again, for sake of spreading kids out, not having one be overloaded versus another, and having some additional outside space. So it is during your fourth, based on your fourth period teacher, and we actually will have an AG on Wednesday. And during that, which is right after third period, students will be able to know and be able to refresh their memory if they forgot which lunch and which hallway base that they're in, that they will have that lunch.
Yes, and on our bell schedule, we have it written out, and like Patrick said, it is subject to some change, because what's most important is that we're balancing out the lunch periods. But first lunch during fourth period, the first floor, E-wing, and CTE buildings will take that first lunch. And then the rotation for second lunch, classes that are located on the second floor, gym, weight room, C and D wings. So that'll be the second lunch. But we'll make sure that the numbers are squared away, and that the students all know through their AG where they belong and which lunch they belong to. Great question.
So there are a couple other questions there that I can answer. First, about school starts at 8:45. The earliest you can begin to drop off students is 8 o'clock. We encourage you to have it a little bit later, closer to 8:30 if you can do that, but we understand that that's not always possible. So 8 o'clock is the earliest you can drop off a student, then we'll have supervision available. There's another question about wanting to know when you'll be notified for an exposure. So while Mr. Thompson will send out messages, and we got those last year, with whether there is a COVID positive in the school, everybody gets that notification. But if somebody was personally exposed within 3 feet for a cumulative time of 15 minutes, we will then personally contact those people.
Great, terrific. Let's see. A few more questions that are coming in. We'll take them as they come. Will the library be open in the mornings for students? Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. I know, Patrick, you have the updates on that.
Yeah, so I can answer that. So at this time, we are not opening the library up to students for twofold. One, to be able to space students out there once all the bookshelves and everything come down there. For supervision purposes too, by having kids spread out in the cafeteria and in the outside areas that we're working on getting tenting and more spaces for kids to be able to space out. That provides a better opportunity for social distancing and for supervision. So the library is not going to be a spot in the morning for students to hang out. However, once students are allowed to open back up into the building, I believe it's at 8:30 or 8:35, there is time for students then to access the library and get many materials or things they may need prior to the start of their first period class.
And we will be distributing one-to-one devices, Chromebooks, to all of the students this year in their AG classes within the first 2 weeks of school. It's a very easy login connection process, and we will ensure that the Wi-Fi is available throughout the building in those areas between the hours of 8 and 8:35, if that's a concern for accessibility and access points. So that's another one. We'll continue to look at some of the questions that come in. Those were most of the highlights, again, for what we had to present. It's very exciting that we have a few events. I know we have Mr. Rise, our athletic director and assistant principal, on the line too. If he's able to come in, we'll allow that. But on his behalf, oh, okay, there he is. I can hear him.
Yeah, so the only
Have a
thing I'm going to
chance.
share is I do have to apologize. I am at a soccer game, so you will hear some crowd noise in the background. But I do want to share that we have a boys soccer game going on tonight, and we do have full capacity fans here. They are all in masks, which we will be requiring for those folks to enter into our facilities to be a spectator at our events and activities. So we have boys soccer tonight at home. Tomorrow night, we welcome our first home football game for our varsity team. So the varsity football team hosts Grant High School tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. It will be a free admittance game. So those of you that would like to come out to watch the game will not have to pay to get into the game tomorrow night. We will require that everybody that enters does have a mask. And we just want to welcome everybody back. And then as we move into next week, we get back with soccer again on Tuesday and Thursday. Our first home volleyball match will be next Thursday. We are hosting Dallas High School. So again, we invite all folks to come out to whichever events that you would like to attend. There are no capacity limitations at this time. The one mandate that we have in place is that all of our fans will be in masks. So again, thank you all for being on tonight. I'm going to mute back up just to minimize the crowd noise here in the background. If there are questions, please feel free to reach out to the athletic department and or stay connected at silvertonfoxes.com. That's our athletic-based website. There's also a link from the main high school page as well. Again, silvertonfoxes.com. Thank you so much, guys.
I was wondering if Mr. Rise has a score update though before he goes, just in case.
Yes, so I can say that our boys are playing the Thurston Colts tonight, and we actually put one in the net in the first 20 seconds of the game. So we have about 20 minutes left in the first half, and we're up 1-0. So
terrific. Thanks, James, so much. We have a question, Jody, you wanted to answer, student ID cards. Go ahead.
Yes, we will have student retakes for pictures for student ID cards, and that I believe is set for the first couple of weeks of school. We'll get that information out to students as well as whether it's the next town hall or on the website.
Thank you so much. Will students get their students will get their username and passwords in their AG. They'll go through that in order to log in correctly, because that login also locks them in to their device. Patrick, do you have updates?
Yeah, so I think they're also asking too, this would be for our returning students, our sophomores through seniors, because they will be accessing that to get their schedules. It's my understanding from technology that that has not been reset, so that would be the same. There may be a prompt, like sometimes there's at the beginning of the year, that they might need to update to a new password, and we'll confirm that, but they will still log in like they did before for our returning students to get into their account. For our new students, we will be having that within our AG and other areas to help them and assist them in logging in to get that account set up for them for the school year. And then there's another question that someone had for sophomores or other folks that may be new in the building. First, we hope that any sophomores or any folks that were able to took advantage of some of the school tours that we had during registration. To help folks. However, we will have maps available and have lots of staff members out and about to help direct students to their classes. And it is one of those things for the first day or so of where we are understandably we're teaching kids where to go and how to get there. That, you know, I know sometimes folks worry about that first day of I can't be late, I'm a minute late or 2 minutes late, but I'm very understanding as folks are navigating. We'll have lots of adults in the hallway as well as student leaders that can help and direct students if they weren't able to take part of our tours during registration.
Oh, Jody, you're still muted.
I would say that if someone felt more comfortable with the map, if that's something, you know, we probably could have those, you know, some available, but just check with your counselor or with the main office.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And Jody, maybe you can help me out with this. We did talk with our teachers today regarding the first 2 weeks of school. we know are going to be hectic, and we understand the tardy policy, but we want to get all of our students to their classrooms and from, and obviously we'll have some leniency on that. The major thing we want to make sure is that our students understand where they're going, if they have any change of classes, or if there's classrooms that are in the different areas than they thought, that we point them out and get them there. Is that correct?
Yeah, especially because they have to follow arrows to get around everywhere. And if you kind of go, oh man, I went down the wrong hallway, I have to walk out. Flexibility, grace, and patience. And our staff is remarkable. So I don't think we have to worry about that. There's another one there about when do students get their ID cards. Those ID cards, the ones that we're taking at registration, when they are delivered to us, we turn that around pretty quickly to get them out to students. Sometimes we deliver them in AG, and sometimes it just kind of depends on what is the easiest way to do that. But as soon as they're delivered to us, we will get them out to the kids.
Terrific. I do have another update. Mr. Rice said it's now 2-0 Silverton. Let's see. Any other updates? Jody, Patrick, anything highlights on the top of your mind? We'll wait for another minute as questions come in. Let's see.
I would just say a good portion of the many questions their kids may have will be addressed probably through their AG classes and periodically with teachers throughout the day. I know there's a little bit of anxiety because kids have been out for a little bit, but so have our teachers, and that'll be a time to ask all the questions you need to.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot that will be covered at AG, you know, from cell phones, earbuds, hoodies. Maybe Jody, you want to briefly highlight those quick things for us?
So what we ask, because people talk about, is there a dress code? And one of the things I talked about to the staff is the dress code is the same for males or females, quite honestly. And it is, if you have a shirt, it has to be straps. They don't have to be a certain width. They just have to have straps. And students need to be covered from about their armpits down to mid leg. You know, I mean, that part needs to be covered. And then they have to have footwear. You can't walk through the building without footwear. That's the dress code. Some other things that we add to that are that we are a society, a small city there. And so we ask that there be no hoods in the building. And because with masks and hoods, it's difficult, and we want people to be social while they're there. We ask for they can have their phones out in between classes, absolutely. They can text, they can talk, that's between classes. In class, that is at the discretion of the teacher. If they go, okay, you can have that out during this time, that's up to the teacher. If the teacher does not want those out, then we ask that they be put away and not brought out. And checking time, we have clocks in every classroom, so we don't have to worry about that. And so we just ask that those phones stay away. One of the big things also is earbuds and earphones. Those aren't allowed in the hallway. Now, sometimes teachers allow kids to listen to music while they're working. That again is at the discretion of the instructor. But in the hallways, it's a safety issue. We'll have kids that could not even hear us if they have those in, not even one. So those are not allowed in the hallway at all.
Thanks so much. Patrick, I think there's a vaccination student need to quarantine question on there.
Yeah, so a question was asked around, would a fully vaccinated student need to quarantine after exposure? That's kind of getting into that nitty gritty specifics at times. And again, we defer to if there was an exposure of a student that was determined they were within that period of space and time. It works with our nurses as well as the county health folks to determine. And they do have criteria of if a student was vaccinated or was close and didn't have a mask on or did have a mask on, there are some differences there about when they would or wouldn't need to quarantine. But that's where we kind of defer with our nurses and the county health folks if they're able to ask those questions and determine that. My understanding under the current guidance was as long as you were 3 feet away and had a mask on and were vaccinated and didn't have symptoms, you wouldn't necessarily need to isolate. But again, our nurses do all of that connecting and contacting with those students and those families to get all the information and make the appropriate determination.
Thank you. That was clear. So we have another, some other information. So the written documentation, what we'll do is we'll be sharing and posting that on our website. All of the districts' requirements and recommendations for COVID protocols, as well as the ODE recommendations and requirements as well. So we'll have links to ensure that we have access to those documentation, that documentation.
And Mr. Thompson, those are actually the district documents, which I know we linked and talked about in the last town hall. Those are currently already available. If you go to the Silver Falls School District website, there's a reopening schools button there at the top that can link you to all the things from ODE. And there's a little side navigation button that will link you to where it has both the continuity and reopening plan for the school district, as well as the communicable disease plan. And then we will be sharing out, like Mr. Thompson said, our specific how that is enacted and looks in Silverton High School.
Thank you. Perfect. Will town halls be held every Thursday, 7 p.m.? So far, we will plan on meeting weekly, 7 p.m. on Thursdays. And if anything changes, we will notify you. But that's our plan. Oh, one more up there, Jody. You want to answer?
It was asked whether students need to be vaccinated to come to school. No, they do not. They do not need to be vaccinated to come to school. They just have to wear a mask.
Great question. All right. Bus information. Jody, do you or Patrick, anybody have any update on or information on the bus? From what I understand, that all the bus information should have went out to all the parents that have put in their transportation request. If not, I do believe on our website, there is a link to the bus information that you can call if you did not receive that. Is that accurate?
Yes, and there also is, I just was double checking to make sure it was there on the school district website. So again, silverfallsschools.org. There is in the quick links, a thing for bus routes, and it has all of the bus routes there, the PDFs for all the different schools, including the high school, as well as contact information if you have any questions about that, as well as any of the policies referred to for bus riding. And we'll make sure too that I believe that's linked on the Silverton High School website, but that is on the Silver Falls School District website for parents.
Also about, will we share the Can My Student Go to School flow chart with all families? If that is something that families find helpful, we could post that as well. So we'll just make note of it and put that on there.
Absolutely. I know that's part of the communicable disease plan. We can take that portion out, that flow chart, and definitely post it, like Ms. Drescher said. I think that's a great idea.
And
that's an important.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just say I think that's also a great important segue too, just to remind our families that especially during this time of COVID, it's really essential if we have students that are not feeling well, that are ill, that are exhibiting symptoms, not sending our kids to school just so we can ensure again the safety both of your students and others. This is definitely that time of making sure that we're having those conversations with our students, just like we're having those conversations with our adults around making those choices and decisions that are going to help hopefully not impact our own learning and health and the learning and health of others.
Regarding where to pick up parking pass forms, that will be posted to the website, but if we will also have copies they're generally outside of the bookkeeper's door, outside of their window. But we may put them in a couple of spaces so that not everybody goes to the same spot, and we will let you know. We'll let the AGs know so you can find those.
Terrific. Let's see, any other questions that are coming in? We'll wait a minute or two. These are great questions. How will students receive their access to education for excused absences for medical reasons, including COVID and quarantine? The platform that Silverton High School will use is Canvas, as well as other maybe non-electronic means to create a personal education plan for students that need to be out for a temporary amount of time. So we will make sure that that's accessible and available. Shall that happen? Teachers will be working on their Canvas over the next couple of days as well. Great question. Right. I don't see any more questions. Oh, I think a few might be popping up. We'll hold on just a minute. Attendance? Yeah, great question.
Okay, so regarding how attendance is taken in those situations when students are out, it has to be a significant interaction with the instructor and within the class, not just logging in. The instructor, it's a change from last year, isn't that correct, Patrick? A little bit of a change from last year in that it has to be, students have to communicate with the instructor and take part in class in order to be present. Now, if they're sick, we understand that. We don't want them sitting at a computer if they're sick, and they can that can be excused through Miss Julie Brown in the attendance office.
Yes, that's correct. And I would clarify too, we're talking for students who are being isolated or quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
We would still mark them as present as long as they, again, were meeting that threshold of significant interaction. So being part of, whether it is connecting with the teacher virtually, email, messaging, turning in assignments, doing the work that they would need to do. At the same time, realizing too, if we have students that are quarantined, potentially are sick as well, then obviously providing that opportunity of the sick time and sick absences for them as well.
Well, it is, that was a ton of information. We're just at about 7:45. We'll wait another minute to see if any other questions pop up. But, again, I think what we're doing is we're really looking forward to our in-person education. We have a bell schedule. We have our 5-day schedule. The first week, 4 days. And the second week too, I believe. So we're really looking forward to being in person. We spent hours and hours this week in preparation. Mr. Mulligan had shared a little bit about guaranteed and viable curriculum of what our teachers are going through right now with mapping out curriculum. They've been, working collaboratively hours on in ensuring that we have a very viable curriculum that we're going to be delivering this year. It's going to be exciting because it's going to be transparent. We're all going to be able to see exactly what's being delivered and what standards are being met. And I think it's not that it hasn't been done in the past, but I think it's going to be captured in such a way where we're going to be able to visualize it, see it in action. So again, I think that's a really exciting part of what we're going to be doing this year, as well as all the activities that we have planned that we'll be sharing out as well. Given no interruptions, I'm really looking forward to a lot of those activities, social activities as well. So it's been a few minutes since we had any questions. I want to also tip my hat and share how grateful we are to all the community members and the parents. We saw such a great amount of people have come out and just shared the preparation. We have donations. We have all kinds of stuff that we're greatly appreciative for. The strong community, as we know, everyone's excited for in-person learning. So I just want to tip my hat for and celebrate all the successes out there and appreciate all the parents and community members that have given so gracefully to all of the donations that we've been receiving. So any other updates or bright spots, Patrick, Jody, that we can celebrate, and then we can maybe call it an evening. I think we got one more. Students in Google Meet still be a part of the class if they are sick. And Google Meet is a piece of technology that we're not prohibiting, but the platform that we are requiring for distance learning will be sorry, we got a couple more questions coming up. Patrick, would you share with us about the access to Canvas? Just a little bit about that's the requirement.
Yeah, so Canvas is the platform that the school district is using to provide that opportunity and availability, partly due to its be able to connect to the connect to our gradebook program software as well as some of our other systems. So that, like Mr. Thompson shared, Google Meets is not something that can't be necessarily accessed, but it is something that we're using Canvas as the means of that delivery. And partly, again, this is for our students to be able to get both the instruction in person for our teachers as well as through the activities they have. So there may be recorded videos, directions, things that they have that would be available there. And that will be as the teacher builds that Canvas and builds those lessons to be accessible for the student at home.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Sorry, I'm having some technical issues. I may have kicked Ms. Drescher off on accident. But I think what we'll do is we'll call it a night this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. What we'll do is we'll continue to update. We'll continue to post on Parent Square, and we'll continue to produce more material as more information comes about. But we're really looking excited. Have a great weekend. We'll see a lot of you at the game tomorrow night and this weekend and on Monday. We have a bunch of athletic activities occurring, and we can't wait to see all of our students next week. So thank you again. Have a great evening.